Jen, welcome to the Girls for Greatness podcast. It is so wonderful to have you here. I'm glad this all worked out despite our little back and forth today. I am just thrilled to have you on. You are doing so many amazing things in the world, as I mentioned kind of in my intro, but tell us a little bit just where you're from and a little about you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a really big pleasure. I love your podcast and what you stand for. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, who am I? Well, I'm a mom of four, first and foremost. That is my most prized title of all things that I do. I have been raising babies and raising businesses for the last 16 years. And that has really led me into a lot of self reflection, a big, huge journey, especially a journey through leadership. As I've navigated that, it hasn't always been easy to pair motherhood and entrepreneurship, personal growth and relationships. There's just been a lot of lessons along the way. So I feel like I'm a gatherer of many lessons, and I love mentorship because then you turn around, you get to teach them.
That's so true. That's so true. And I know, just being a mom of four, I really appreciate that and appreciate, the perspective that you have on everything we're going to talk about, because I know many listening in are, moms, some not, but many, many are. And I know that just always throws in an element of craziness, so to speak.
Yeah. There's never a dull moment.
I know,
for sure.
Right. Right. So tell me a little about, just how you got into the work that you're doing, where Becoming Iconic kind of originated, how you got to that point, because I know you've had such a great success yourself in business and all of those things. And I'm just curious how you did that and then transitioned into what you're doing.
It started when I was a little girl. I've always wanted to be someone who would support women in their confidence. And I didn't know what that looked like, but the idea was very clear. The call was very clear. I have a deep faith, and that's always felt like a little bit of my life's journey and what was supposed to be a part of it. And so I thought it was going to come through fashion. I love fashion. I love styling. I went to school for fashion, but quickly realized that that industry was going to eat me for breakfast. I didn't have the personal confidence in terms of my appearance to hold myself in that industry. So that was an interesting thing for me to navigate. And I moved into marketing, which was not for women. It was software. So I was dealing with men and software, and that was not at all where I saw myself, but it did lay a foundation for the skills that would support me in entrepreneurship. So I started entrepreneurship 16 years ago when I had my first child. I did not want to work full time and be on the plane all the time traveling. There was just so many expectations in the corporate world that I didn't want to carry while raising children. So I decided to venture out into entrepreneurship, and mentorship was a very natural progression for me. I love women. I love supporting women, and I love watching a woman come into something fresh, whether it's an idea, a business, a new relationship, and they're curious and they're nervous, but they have this spark inside of them. I love watching them create and cultivate that fire. So it just really blossomed. And when I launched the actual brand Becoming Iconic in January of 2020, it took off. And it took off because for many years prior to that, people watched me. I'd built a reputation. I'd worked with many people and supporting them starting businesses globally. So when that personal brand piece was really defined, the floodgates opened and people felt very welcomed in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love the whole name, Becoming Iconic. I have to tell you that. I really do. I really love it. And I know that encompasses a lot of things, which I kind of talked a little bit about in the intro. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like what you've kind of woven into that whole idea, and maybe to you, what does the word iconic mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one I love to sit with because it still feels like an evolution. The story is unfolding. It was given to me. I knew I wanted to do something about becoming the evolution of a person, whether that be motherhood or in business or as a partner in a relationship, whatever that was. My goal has always been to wake up every day and be somewhat better than I was yesterday. That there's some gauge of improvement that I have, actually learned a lesson and I'm starting to apply the lesson. So that was my personal expectation and intention. And I thought, what could that be? And it was the becoming. The word iconic, I was really resistant to that. I thought, who am I to proclaim that word? I'm not iconic. I mean, Oprah's iconic. And so I didn't really feel it, but it just kept popping up and popping up. And then I realized what an icon is, or someone being iconic is being their personal best, is that pursuit of our personal best and creating that next level version of ourselves consistently. And that can take on many roles and look many different ways, but it's what is that for you? And so that's what I challenge people into when they come into my world.
I love that. I love that. That's great. I like that explanation. And one of the other things I wanted to touch on, because I know we kind of talked about this when we spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, just about the whole idea of balance. And I know I know I've talked about that before on here. And I've had different perspectives, from different guests on whether that's possible and what does that look like, and is balance really a thing? And I'm just curious for you what your take is, because I know, as I said earlier, for being, a woman, that can look very different than it can for a man. And not that, one is better than the other, but I'm just saying, I think our roles are obviously very different. We take on, different things in different ways. And
Right.
I'm curious, like, your take on the whole balance aspect, because I think that's something as women that we really question a lot and struggle and beat ourselves up over, saying, we just can't keep it all together.
Right. Yeah. And it's such an interesting thing. I actually would love to eradicate this whole idea of trying to find balance, because I believe that's what's really provoking us into feeling out of balance. It's the search for balance that we're constantly not in balance. Then we feel like we're doing something wrong, and we sit into victimhood and martyrism and poor me. And I got so much on my plate. And if only I had more time, and if I had more help, and then we project those feelings onto our spouse or our children or people around us. And it's just this loop that we've all participated in to some degree. So I teach harmony. I believe if we stop searching for balance, because nothing is 50-50, not even a relationship. I mean, there's days I'm 30%, my husband's 70%, and days we're 40-60. Like, I don't believe in the 50-50 either. That's not how it works. And we've kind of fallen into these tales. I don't even want to call them lies, but tales, and have taken them so literally that I believe it's one of our worst enemies in terms of excuse making. So when we look for harmony, what that means to me is I am in the moment, like right now with you, I am with you. I'm not thinking about what I have to do tonight, what I'm going to make for dinner, all the to-do lists. And when we can learn to be present, that's when all of a sudden we start to feel the click, like things just start to click together. And they're no longer this tug of war, who's going to get my attention, and the guilt that we carry. When we're with our families, we're guilty we're not working our businesses. When we're with our business, we're guilty we're not spending time with our family. That's not an existence. There's no joy in that. What if instead, when you work so well, and when you're with your family, you give them their undivided attention, and that creates harmony, and it eliminates this conflict, this duality we live in, where we feel like we constantly need to either sacrifice or choose.
That's so true. That's so true. How, for you, have you been able to create that sense of presence and being in the moment? I mean, especially being a mom of 4, very, very busy with a lot going on. And that's something that I really try and strive for as well in my own life. And I think has made all the difference, is just shifting my focus into the power of the moment. I don't always achieve it, believe me. I have many days where I feel like I'm all over the place. But I'm curious for you, what are your practices for that? And how have you, kind of navigated your way through that?
Well, it's a really great observation you just had, because I believe in progression, not perfection. It's another way we get stuck in excuses when we're seeking perfection. There's just what's perfection? That means we have it all figured out. And then where's the fun in life? I mean, it would just be I don't know, mundane.
Yeah.
So it's all about this moving forward and having obstacles, and every day is fresh and new. That's why I like entrepreneurship is not one day is alike,
Mm.
it's always different and it's fresh. So one of the things I do is I hold very strict boundaries. I really do love the marriage of masculine energy and feminine energy. I do not lean more one into the other. I love the marriage of those two, the blending of the two. So my masculine energy comes in and it really serves me when it comes to creating a schedule and sticking to my schedule and holding those boundaries. Because what that has created in my home is when I'm working, my family honors that. And they
Mm.
honor it because they know when I say I'll be done at 4, I'm done at 4. I follow
Right.
through on my word. And so they know that they can trust me. They also know that I am serious and I invite them into what I'm doing. I don't keep these two worlds separate. I am a mompreneur.
Mm.
So this is something we're doing as a family. Yes, I lead it, but I definitely involve them as much as I can. And they do feel my attention. So I've never had a lot of conflict in my home or resistance to my business because I'm very vocal about it. I share a lot, I involve them, but I
Mm.
also hold my boundaries so that they are respected. And they also know that I respect them enough to say, when I'm done, I'm done. And I'll walk out of my office and through the door and I'm all yours.
Mm. That's great. That's really great. I think that's really important. I mean, like you said, is just having that sense of presence in what you
Mm-hmm.
do and then presence with your family. Whereas I feel sometimes those lines get so crossed because we don't have those established barriers.
No,
Um, we
no.
don't have those quitting times or those times where we're putting away our devices and computers and being able to devote our full attention. So,
Yeah. And I didn't always do that well.
yep,
For the first 10 years,
same.
and it makes me a little emotional, but my kids would walk in the door from school and I would shush them because I would be on the phone, I would be doing something for my business, so they would be entering into my business world. And I look back at that with a lot of compassion and forgiveness. I didn't know better, but I also look back and think, oh, they didn't deserve that. They didn't
Mm.
deserve to walk into the door to a preoccupied mom, to be shushed. I mean, a mom,
Mhm.
how I would love to greet my children and what I do now is, how was your day? Tell me all about it. I didn't do that at the
Yeah,
beginning. So again, it's not about perfection.
right.
And the other thing too, you mentioned technology. I just maybe give this one practice. I think it's really important is do not disturb is a great function on our phones. Put it on. And there's nothing more elevating to your partnership and your children than actually just putting it away.
Mhm.
There are no life and death emergencies. There really aren't in entrepreneurship, well, for most of us at least. And so we can put that phone down and realize there will always be something more to do in our business. The to-do list will never end. That's entrepreneurship
Yeah.
as well. But the moments we have with our family, they may.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
those are moments to savor, and those don't just keep hanging on. Our kids, it's
Mm.
a flash in the pan and they're off doing their own thing. So it's really being able to give yourself those big pieces of permission to put things down and soak in the beauty and the pleasure of your life and what you've created already.
That's beautiful and great advice. I couldn't agree more. That's great. What are some of the things that you've come across? I'm curious with the women you work with in terms of just their struggle with harmony. Like what do you think is like, I mean, besides technology, right? Or besides all of the different directions that we're pulled in, what do you think are some of the biggest struggles with women today in terms of them finding that harmony?
Well, I believe it a lot of it stems from comparison.
Mm.
So social media, I don't have a negative feeling towards social media. I really don't. I love it, but I love it because I have boundaries. And when I feel myself going down you know, the, the
Yep.
pit, I suppose, of scrolling, I can catch myself quickly. I've trained myself, but a lot of people don't. And so when we start to compare ourselves through social media with what we perceive as someone's success, because we have to know a lot of things are embellished, a
Mm.
lot of things are exaggerated. And that's all okay as long as we know that, then we
Mm-hmm.
can look at things and look at it with the correct set of eyes. But with the clients I work with, I believe they feel like they're chasing all the time.
Mm.
It's this idea that if I don't work and put more hours in, then I'm not going to be as successful as. And I work really hard
Mm.
with them. And I really spend a lot of time, is where I put my life coaching hat on, telling them, let's redefine what success is. Because if we build this seven big, huge figure brand, and you have a depleted relationship, you've lost time with your kids, you feel disconnected to the people around you, you feel disconnected to yourself, your health has suffered, that is not going to feel like a big celebration.
Mm.
Instead, there's going to be resentment. There's going to be a feeling of loss. So, what are we really trying to do here? I believe we're trying to live exceptional lives. And what does that look like? And we spend a lot of time thinking about 5 years from now. What does she do? How does she move through her day? How does she make decisions? How is she spending her
Mm.
time? What does she wear? Who's she around? How does she speak to herself? So we do a lot of visualization, and then we bring her into the moment and say, let's make all of our decisions today based on what we just witnessed. And that kind of confidence, I call it peaceful confidence. This way she moves and she just knows how to make decisions at her highest self.
I love that. I love that. I think that's really important, that forward thinking of what are things going to look like? How am I going to act? Who am I going to be? I mean, I feel
Yes.
like that's so, so important. Um, so I know this has been such a quick little go around, and there's so many other things I could ask, but I do want to wrap up with two questions. And hopefully, Jen, we can do this again, because I think there's some other little, nuances in there that I think would really be beneficial to
I'd love that.
people that are listening. But tell me 3 words that best describe who you really and truly are.
Thank you. I just want to pause for a second. This is such an interesting question. I'm so glad you asked this. I wonder how many people you interview pause and like have to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
As women, we can come up with a list of things we don't always appreciate
Right.
of ourselves. But I love that you asked this, because this is really important for personal power. So for sure, for me, the number one would be sincerity. I consider myself a very sincere person, genuine. The other would be compassionate, because I've had a journey of a lot of ups and downs and a lot of fall to my knees moments. It's created a very compassionate person within me, where I see people very deeply. And the third one would likely be leader. I love to lead. I love to lead myself. I love to lead others. I love to lead my family. I find that a high responsibility, a privilege, and an honor. So those are things that I take very seriously.
Those are great, great words. And my final question, how do you embody greatness?
By asking myself every day, how can we do this better? How can we be better today? It's my prayer. I wake up, it makes me teary. It makes me just emotional, because it's so a part of me. Is greatness is giving ourselves permission to be all of ourselves, living in so much integrity and truth. And that comes from a high level of intention and being tapped into ourselves and really stretching ourselves into new things each and every day, whether that's a new recipe, a new way of greeting my children, a new friend on the internet, whatever it is. I seek those opportunities day in and day out. And that definitely has created a life of greatness.
I love that. I love that. And that's such a great challenge to everyone. Just doing things a little bit better each and every day. And I'm such a huge believer in that, whole mentality of wanting to be better and do things better and just, all of it. I feel like it's such an important part of finding the joy and happiness in life is really seeking, to improve oneself. So Jen, thank you so much for being here. I truly have loved what you've shared. I know that you're doing such amazing work. I love everything that you're about, and I will have everything linked up, of course, you guys, in the show notes so that you can check out Jen's website and follow her on social media. So thank you so much again, Jen. It was an honor.
It was a very big honor. Thank you for having me.